Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you tonight, once again focusing on Mexico, since I spent quite a bit of time there lately. We will be introducing an activist from Mexico who's not just active in Mexico, formed an organization called Cannabis, and they're active all across Latin America, in Mexico, in addition to Colombia and Argentina and Chile. So we'll be talking to Polita Pepper, who will be our guest tonight. We also have our hemp news segment, which is coming on soon, and some other film clips. So stay tuned as we bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
Our first story tonight is from Arizona. Arizona's Proposition 207, the citizen-initiated ballot measure legalizing the adult-use marijuana market in Arizona, took effect this past Monday, November 30th, following the certification of the 2020 election results by the Office of Arizona's Secretary of State. Provisions legalizing marijuana possession, up to 1 ounce of cannabis and up to 5 grams of concentrate, the use of marijuana and personal cultivation, and up to 6 plants per private residence take immediate effect. Separate provisions licensing adult use marijuana businesses and facilitating the expungement of past criminal convictions take effect next year. Following the passage of the measure on Election Day, most county prosecutors immediately began dismissing marijuana possession cases. Under prior law, minor marijuana possession offenses in Arizona could be prosecuted as felonies and were among the strictest in the United States. The certification of Proposition 207 marks a historic day for Arizona. Voters made their voices heard by rejecting the failed policy of prohibition, and now otherwise law-abiding adults no longer need to live in fear of prosecution and the lifelong collateral consequences that come with possessing this plant. The full text of Arizona's Proposition 207 can be found online. Our next story is from New Jersey. New Jersey's Attorney General has instructed local prosecutors to either dismiss or adjourn any pending low-level marijuana cases. The directive comes weeks after a supermajority of New Jersey voters approved a ballot question calling on lawmakers to legalize the adult-use marijuana market. Lawmakers are continuing to debate multiple pieces of enabling legislation to make marijuana possession, production, and retail sales legal. In the interim, New Jersey's Attorney General Gruber Grewal is directing that marijuana possession-related prosecutions be halted. He said, quote, "Fairness demands that we suspend prosecution of marijuana possession-related cases while we await direction from the legislature on the parameters for decriminalization of marijuana and legalization of regulated adult-use cannabis," end quote. The Attorney General said, quote, "It simply does not make sense or serve justice to proceed with prosecutions or on charges that may be foreclosed soon through legislative action," end quote. The consensus of voters is clear. They don't want their fellow citizens targeted, arrested, and prosecuted for possessing marijuana, and these enforcement practices need to cease immediately. Police have already arrested tens and thousands of New Jerseyans and millions of Americans in recent years for minor marijuana violations. It's not in the public interest to disrupt any additional lives during what are the final days of this failed policy. According to reporting by NJ.com, some police in New Jersey have continued to make low-level marijuana-related arrests while lawmakers negotiate amongst one another. Legislative hearings and floor votes initially scheduled for Monday were postponed. Lawmakers are scheduled to return to session on December 7th, next Monday. Our last story tonight is from Tampa Bay, Florida. Nearly 1 in 10 cancer patients over the age of 65 is an active consumer of cannabis, according to data published in the journal, the British Medical Journal. Supportive and Palliative Care. Investigators affiliated with the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa Bay, Florida, reviewed drug screen samples provided by cancer patients upon their initial visits to that clinic. The researchers retrospectively reviewed 3 years of data. Among cancer patients aged 65 or older, 8% have tested positive for cannabis exposure. A separate study published in October in the American Journal of Clinical Oncology reported that an estimated 25% of cancer patients self-report using cannabis medicinally, but that paper did not stratify respondents by age. The researchers concluded, quote, as one of the first studies to assess cannabis use via objective testing rather than self-report, this study adds significantly to the emerging literature on cannabis use in people aged 65 and older. Findings suggest the rate of use in older adults living with cancer is higher than that among older adults in the general population. End quote. This study, the rate of cannabis use in older adults with cancer, appears in BMJ's Supportive and Palliative Care edition. That's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. We have an interview now with Latin American and Mexican activist Polita Pepper, who founded Cannativa. We'll be back next week too, so stay tuned and help restore hemp. Good night. I would like to introduce a good friend of mine, Polita Pepper, who is from Mexico City and works with Cannativa all across Mexico and South America. Welcome, Polita.
Thank you, Paul. I'm really excited to be here today. I really appreciate to be part of this moment. I'm a really fan and I have a really admiration for your work, and I always seen your work. So I'm really happy to be here finally.
Well, we're finally glad to have you on the show. You know, the pandemic has messed up so many things, but for us, it's pushed us to set up other ways to interview people. So rather than just interview people who are in our studio here in Portland, we're now able to reach out to people all around the world we're using Skype. And so that works pretty well. And it's an honor to have you among our first Skype guests here. Tell us about Cannativa. It's an organization based in Mexico City, but you're also in several other countries as well.
Yes, right. One of the really good things about this new reality, this new normality that they call, is that we can get together since different countries, right? So yes, Canativa, it's a social association. It's a civil platform which is based in Mexico City, but we also work in different countries in Latin America because we work with education. We strongly believe that education is our social transformation weapon. So we start like 8 years ago here in Mexico City, and we found this transmedia platform, and actually 8 years later, we are legally constituted here in Mexico City, and we are working all across the country. And we have these partnerships in different countries: Chile, Colombia, Argentina. So luckily, we are working with education all around Latin America. We believe that this is the way to change the stigma in our countries. So that's what we do, basically.
Yeah, that's the stigma is the thing we have to fight against here as well, with people thinking because it's been illegal, it's got to be bad, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's our job to educate people. And that's what this TV show's been doing for since 1996. And so
Wow.
it's good to have you here on the show. I think this is show 1057, I think, but it's something like that. 1057. So we have a lot of media out there. But so can there in Mexico City, you're going through a pretty exciting time. I know the Senate has just passed a law based on the Supreme Court forcing them to address this issue in terms of legalizing marijuana. But that doesn't mean it's legal yet. Just like in the United States, there's a bicameral legislature, is the technical word for it, are two houses. So the Senate has passed it, but now it must go to the House of Deputies, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Now we just have the first step. We have like as I say, the first step we have to wait until the second camera, which is the Camera of Deputies, Diputados, and then we have to wait until the president see that law, and then every step of the of this change, everything can change, you know. People that can also make some changes to that law, and also the president can deny to approve that law. So we are just one step forward. What happened with this law for Mexican cannabis legalization? Well, since my personal point of view, it's a law which is right from the peer. It's not a law that is thinking in the final consumer. It's not a law that is thinking in the patient. It's not a law that is thinking in the user or consumers. It's a law which is mainly thinking in the big pharmaceutical business, which is not really good for our reality, because we cannot deny that Mexico is one of the main producers of marijuana in the world. We've been doing that from since, like, you know, 100 of years ago. We are historical producers of
Yeah.
marijuana. So
When I
now
first
we
started
cannot
using,
deny our
yeah,
reality. We have the totally right that we and our historical communities, indigenous people, they have the right to participate at an equal proportion as anyone else, you know. They are the main affected of that war on drugs. So they are not really thinking enough. But one thing that I have to recognize, it is also that this is the first step also for the end of the prohibition. And that is really important also. This is not the best law. It's not a law for us, but it is the first step to be
yeah.
legalized.
Well, good. That's the first step is always good. I understand that there's a chance to change the law,
Yeah.
and hopefully it will become more friendly to our community and our culture. And I was robbed by, and Bill and I both were robbed by a Canadian corporation that turns out to be the Kronos Group. And I understand these huge Canadian corporations are there in Mexico trying to turn the law to their benefit.
Yeah. You know, and it's really, it's something that we can also change, because we already live in that kind of geopolitical issue. We are a colonized country. We are being producing all the field work for for the states, for Canada, for all of the countries of the first world. So this is an opportunity to create an equal industry in which indigenous communities can participate as they deserve, because they are the growers in our country. We are a bunch of people having different interests in marijuana legalization, but we cannot deny. But there is the most vulnerable, most affected people are indigenous people, women, trans people, and in our country, which is an indigenous agricultural country, we have to not, we cannot deny that we cannot be inclusive with them because they are the growers. Mexican growers are being doing that for the last hundred of years, So now we have not just to recognize that they exist. We have to dignify their work. We have to put them at the top as a priority of this law, and they are not a priority.
So law goes to the House of Deputies and the president. Uh, who are there groups trying to lobby the House of Deputies about changing this to be friendlier to the indigenous communities and the cannabis community instead of just bowing to the power of big money?
Yeah, it's because it's not thinking in the user. Other issues that the other problems that with this law is that Mexico is a really corrupted country. We all know that. There are some parts of the law that can really stimulate that corruption of the country. For example, you can be in the street with your weight until 27 grams. But if you have 20 grams or more, the problem that we have is that they can put you, how do you say that? When you have to pay a bill or something because you are doing something that you should not supposed to do.
Yeah, it's a prohibition.
Yeah. Well, we already have this really big issue in corruption. So they are, and one of the big issues in Mexico reality is that police is really corrupted here. So,
It's true everywhere. It's true
yeah,
here in the United States. I've had several times where the police, oh, you have really good stuff, and then they took it, and so, but
yeah.
there they can put you in jail, and it's a terrible if they just tell a little lie.
Yeah, so that's another issue that you can be extortionated by police. That already happened. Other thing that is not really well think is the spaces you can consume. Other thing that we should rethink about this law is about the cannabis social clubs, which is only allowed 20 people or so. So we are more than 100 million people country, so 20 people by each club is just not enough, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I think in Spain they let up to 100 people be members of the club. There in the Spanish model.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a bunch of details, but there's are details that are not thinking in the consumers. They are also not thinking in the patients because they are not seeing what is going to happen with people like moms and dads that are making their own medicine for their families. They're gonna be not allowed because you cannot transformate your cannabis. You can also only grow on your house, but you have to register as a grower. And if you register as a grower, you are allowing police that have your address and all your dates so they can check you. And here, nobody, I mean, anywhere, but especially here, nobody trusts in the police. So nobody's gonna, going to do that. It's gonna be really complicated. And that's another issue about this law. Another thing that really concerns me, it's about making medicine in artisanal way, because medicine is only allowed to the companies that can make it to get a license. So what is happening with that people in their houses. They are trying with their own plants to making medicine um, to their families. Yeah, that's a thing that can be really complicated because there's thousands of people, thousands of families trying because they can afford a cannabis treatment, a legal cannabis treatment. So there are thousands of people in this situation, and this this ball in the law, it's going to be really complicated because they are not allowed to produce. And most of these people, they cannot get a license because it's going to be a bunch of requirements, a bunch of bureaucracy, and a bunch of money also.
Yeah, that's
So,
ridiculous. I know we have a similar situation with qualifying for medical marijuana in the United States. It's expensive, but it's better than not having it. Obviously, it takes quite a bit of cannabis to make a cancer treatment for a cancer patient, and so um, how can you make these changes in the law? Is there a way to get the House of Deputies to make these changes? Are there friendly legislators? I know back in about a year and a half ago, you invited me there to
yeah,
Mexico City to Puerto
yeah,
which is a neat ecological community in central Mexico. And one of the people there was a former legislator, I believe, in the House of Deputies. I can't recall his name right off the top of my head, but uh, I know you have access to several of the legislators there.
yeah. What we can do now? That's the question. As a community, we can, work to make our voices be heard. So we have time to pronounce that we are not agree with what is happening, and we just have, you know, a few weeks to pronounce our disagreement as a community. What we can do now, we can write to all the deputies and senators and our politics and all that people that actually doesn't represent us, that we are not agree. We have to make pressure. We have to write a bunch of mails and write a bunch of letters. Actually, we have to go. We can still go to the streets and be an active part of this change. We have to make our voice to be heard because we are not, um, we are, we have to be part of this law. This law
Yeah,
cannot be just for the companies, cannot be just for the politics, cannot be just for people from other countries that they have the resources to come here and make their own business. We have to then let them know that we are part of this reality, and cannabis have to be for us. And as a community, we also can. We have a time. It's not a really big time, but we have time because the law is not passed yet. They are, there's a bunch of bureaucracy also. So now we have this campaign of let them know, mainly in the senators and deputies, that we are not agree with this, and we also can write them and let them know that they are not making they are not making a law considering the consumers, and they are also not recognizing the importance of the main affected of the work on drugs, which are the indigenous people in Mexico. They are the main growers here, so they also can have to be part of this. So we, as a cannabis community, as a educated cannabis community, we have to pronounce right now. This is the moment, and this is the moment that we have. It's never been so close, Paul.
yeah,
So this is a moment that we all have to be strong and together and really act as a community that we are. Even we have a bunch of difference, even we have in a different, when we live in a different states, and it's not just Mexico City. because
It's
sometimes,
the United States of Mexico. A lot of people in
yeah,
America don't realize that Mexico is the United States of Mexico with, is it 31 different states?
it's like, no, it's, I think it's 20, 23 states.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just came from
26.
Jalisco and I met Miguel from HDP there as part of the judge. I know you were at the same time judging the the Cup, Mexico Cup there in Mexico City. They were kind of going on at the same time. It looked like a lot of fun there. But,
No,
and we had a
that's
lot of,
right. We have 31 states in Mexico. So we are 31 states in Mexico. We have to all pronounce because the reality that we have here in Mexico City, it's full of privilege. We are not living the same reality as the people in one of these 31 states in the middle of the mountain with no access to water or education. And we are not that kind of community that it's like um, they are growing with because they don't have any other option because corn is not giving them any more money like I don't know maybe 50 years ago. So the Mexican field is full or wheat and also or poppy poppy seed also because the Mexican state is not providing, is not supporting Mexican fields. So that communities doesn't decide to grow wheat because they like wheat. You know,
yeah,
they have no option in their lives. They are working to the cartels, and cartels are working with the state because Mexico is a narco state. So, what we can do to change that? We have to recognize that work as a legal work, full of dignity, put that people in the place that society have to recognize as a main full of dignity because that people is it's the main affected of the war on wars. Um, since we are not recognizing that, all the change, I mean the change and the cannabis legalization is just doesn't work.
yeah.
Awesome.
So we are here with Palita Pepper in Mexico City. She is one of the main organizers of Canativa, which is a legalization group that works all across Latin America. So, uh, Palita, we were talking about the movement there in Mexico City, and I know there have been a lot of protests. I recently met Miguel, HDP from 420 Planton. You want to tell our audience what 420 Planton has been doing there?
Yeah, well, 420 Planton, it's like it begins like a critical mass, like like a protest, because we don't have any law of cannabis, and our politics they been since 2017 making us promise. They're actually working in cannabis legalization since that, but we actually have um, no legal regulation or no legalization or regularization yet. So there's
I don't,
this,
for our audience, I
yeah,
just want to say that I guess it was 2017 or 18, the Supreme Court of Mexico ruled on 5 different cases that marijuana prohibition denies marijuana consumers their natural human right to this critical plant, and that those 5 different rulings forced the legislature to consider changing this law. If it wasn't for this impetus from the Mexico Supreme Court, they probably wouldn't be working on this now. Well, my understanding about 420 Planton is they had planted a pretty big marijuana garden right on the national capital.
Yeah, it's just, the 420 Planton is just outside of this Mexican Senate, and it is in the middle of Mexico City, which is the capital of the country. That is huge. It's a really big deal. It's amazing. You can walk through downtown Mexico City, and you can see just in front of the Senate like huge marijuana plants. What we are trying to do
Yeah.
with that as a community, cannabis community movement, that we have the right to grow our own medicine, and they are not doing anything to regulate that. So it's been like already 6 months about that, and daily, day or night, they are a bunch of people of the cannabis community movement, sleeping there, eating there, waking up there, gathering there, growing with there, smoking with there, making music and art, conference. Just let them know that we are being part of this society, because we, as a cannabis consumer, patients, and as a cannabis community, we are not being recognized to our authorities, because they are not putting, cannabis legalization in their agenda. There is not important for them. So what we are trying to do with this, saying to them and to all the Mexican society, this is not agree with the plant, that come on, look at this. This is just a plant.
Yeah, it's not dangerous. My understanding is there are 1,200 plants there, and
Yeah.
it's fenced in. Now, it wasn't fenced at first, but there were some problems. And so the state came and fenced it. And then the activists have a gate where they can let people in now. So they don't just have anyone coming in. And they're allowing anyone who wants to just come in and smoke a joint to come in and smoke a joint there in front of the Senate. It's kind of a little social space there on public property.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that movement. I think it's been really interesting. So it's just not a protest. It is also an example to Mexican society to see and realize that it's just a plant.
Yeah. And then
Because
we're not drunk. It's not like we drank too much whiskey or tequila and we fall down and throw up. This is not the same. So many people think it is the same, you know?
yeah, and we are Mexico. We grow weed. We
Yeah.
grow tons of weed. We have really big issues with the narco cartels. We have really big issues with the war on drugs. We just need to make this different, and we have the opportunity to make this change and grow the life that we deserve with the plant. We have to dignify the plant. At the same time, we have to dignify the people of the plant. We, as part of the education in cannabis, the people who is part of the cannabis movement, but the people who is also part of every part of the change of the cannabis, since the seed down up there in the mountains, in the Mexican mountains, through the store or the dispensary, or the pharmacy or whatever. Every change of that industry have to be dignified in Mexico. We are in the just is the right moment to clear, change that paradigm on war on drugs, which is full of blood in Mexico. And we are just tired of that. It's been 100 years, Paul, and war on drugs, it just doesn't work. You know,
No,
never
it's
work.
it's corruption. It causes the very problems that they said they were
Yeah,
trying to eliminate with the prohibition. I agree with that. I know that you were also active. Well, I don't know if you know it, but when I first used marijuana, it was Mexican marijuana.
right.
I The first pound I bought of marijuana when I was a kid in Texas was Mexican marijuana, and so I have a deep love for Mexican marijuana myself, and it's been an honor to come there and sample some and meet you and so many other activists. But you're working with Canativa. I know, is Nico still in Colombia working with Colombian groups there for medicine?
Yeah, we are actually working. Yeah, he is actually here because he was here and then pandemic start and he can go back yet. But we are working with Colombia and we are also have good news because we are like in a month or so we're gonna this work with this Expo Bogota Cannabis and we are like co-hosted this expo. So you will have notice, you will have news about that new virtual show that we are making with them, and we are also partnership with different other countries because Latin American cannabis culture it's in a different state because we are um, colonized countries, and we being as we being producers of weed, um, we have this kind of a stigma of the producers, so they change the point of view of the society. So our societies in Latin America, they've been grow as in other countries also. I know this is happening in every part of the world, but what the reality that we have here in Latin America, it's really particular because we have this issue about we have this thing with the cartels, the narco traffic, and that make society change their point of view because since two, three, four, and maybe five generations, and in some countries, weed is full of blood. So what weed it's happening now? People it's realizing that oh no, weed is not just blood and cartels and guns and violence. It's also medicine and food. It's also houses, and it's also an opportunity of our countries make a bunch of money of the illegal industry. So everything is changing. It's been a slow change because cultural changes are slow changes, but it's changing. So that's why Canativa it's mainly focused on education because if we don't have educated people to can appropriate that information, we cannot transform it in the daily basis our society. And we have to make big main changes. We have to rebuild our work. It's not just about being with being legal. It's also about indigenous people being recognized. It's also about women being a part of this movement and equal part. It's also being what we're gonna do with all of the cannabis prisoners, what we want to do with all of the cannabis violence involved with these cartels, what we are doing to change the mind of these young people with this working, like it's a bunch of Mexican young people working from the cartels because they don't have another option of life. So this is a slow transformation in which we have to start step by step. And education, it's the seed. We have to empower people through education, to let them know, to let us know that we realize actually that we have in our hands the power to transform our society. It's not just the political issue, it's our issue. We transform the reality because are an active part of this change. So we have to transform our reality and we have to transform our world because this is work is not working for anybody. We have to create a world that we can fit as a consumer, as women, in racialized people, as indigenous people. We have to build a different world
Yeah.
daily.
So if our audience wants to find out more online about Canativa and your work there, what is the website they should take a look at?
Yeah, we are now. It's www.canativa.net, and you guys can also find us in Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We are in all social media, and so please follow us and help us to grow our community.
Well, we'll be happy to put those links up on the screen here for our audience to take a look at. I know you're doing. Are you doing events online when you're doing things in like Argentina, or are you actually traveling to these places?
Well, we are doing what we can do in this new
Yeah.
normality. Yeah, we are doing online workshops. We are also doing online expos and shows, and we hope to go back to travel to presential and hug people, But this year it's been really tough for everybody in the world, I know. But for education, it's been just we have to transform everything because it's not the same thing work with community, cannabis community or families or with patients online. But we have to adapt as the plan taught us, right? We have to adapt and be resilient because we gonna pass through this moment if we wanna flower again. Um, so yeah, we are doing everything online right now, and we are just making and hosting a few presential events with the all that precautions, and all that care that we should everybody have with everybody because we take care together. But we hope 2021 gathering us um,
Yeah,
in
we're all yeah, we're all hoping that 2021 is better for all of us than this illness fear will finally come to a stop.
yeah.
So I know in Argentina, we had Mike Bafari on a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how a law was going to pass, but now
Yeah,
one has passed down there where they're going to legalize medical marijuana. Do you know about that?
yeah, it's changing, Paul. Finally, in Latin America, it's moving for we are working through legalization. Argentina, they also approve medicinal cannabis, and they are also working in how this this law is gonna operate. But it seems it's gonna be allowing several different possibilities to be part of the industry. Legal medicinal cannabis, it's gonna be legal, and so Argentina, it's gonna be part of this movement. Probably Mexico is gonna be part of this movement also. So it's just a prohibition. Um, it's just ending.
I know we've been in Colombia together. We climbed up the Pinol of Guatapé, a big rock there near
Yeah.
Medellin with Nico. So, what kind of work are you guys doing in Colombia with Canativa?
So now in Colombia, we are co-hosting Expo Bogota Cannabis, so that we are co-organizing with this main group of Expo Bogota Cannabis there. And so in less than a month, which is I think is 12th of December, that we're gonna have this beer. It's free online show, so you can gather and you're gonna see different kinds of speakers talking about industrial, medicinal, and business work in cannabis.
I
So
know a
it's
lot is
really
happening in
exciting.
Colombia. And
Paul, one thing that I really appreciate about this normality, talking about our cannabis community, as is that I realized that we are um, resilient. We need to be part of this movement so hard that every word it's popping about cannabis event. It's full of conference meetings, workshops, because we are part of the society everywhere. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
so
all across the world. I mean, cannabis is, back in the 60s, Tim Leary said that, there are more cannabis users than there are Christians and Jews combined. We are the largest minority in the world, really,
yeah.
uh, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, and that is also really exciting because cannabis community is part of this world, and there's no country that can deny that we are also changing that in this world because we deserve it. We have to change that prohibition, and prohibition is finally ending. So we have to make some different changes because the law is not enough. It's not enough the way is today. It's not going to be enough for us. But one thing that we should recognize and we have to celebrate is that we're changing the prohibition, and that's just a huge step.
So tell us some more. You've got the event, did you say December 12th, an online expo?
Bogota Cannabis, yeah, and it is
Oh,
co-hosted by Canativa.
all right. I know you got, what other countries are you operating in?
Well, we are now we are working in Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador. So we strongly believe that Latin America, as a cannabis community, if we gather and we try to think our reality since our own perspective, thinking in the way our population diversity implies, it's gonna be just a huge opportunity through cannabis to change um, our world. Cannabis community need to be diverse.
Yeah,
Diverse, it's a really important thing. So we
we need,
have to put in our agendas women, indigenous people, racialized people, and all of that knowledge that we have historically here in Latin America and in many different communities in the world about plants, medicine, what different, views of the world that we historically have here, indigenous people all through Latin America. If we in the community, in the cannabis community, include that perspective, we're just gonna grow together. We have to, we have to put attention in that communities and bring that knowledge to our community. And
yeah,
that's
well, it's great how you're tying all the different countries of Latin America. I know Mexico is the largest Spanish speaking country, but when you put all the different Latin American countries together, it's just such a huge population. I think it's as bigger than Europe altogether when you add all
yeah,
Spanish speaking nations.
and there's so many
You're
no
working across so many.
yeah
We first met in
in
Chile.
Colombia,
Was it Colombia? Okay. At
yeah,
the
so,
seaweed. Yeah.
like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Has been a few, but we keep running into each other at events. And
Yeah,
uh,
but
sorry I couldn't make it there to Mexico City this year, but soon things will change again, I'm sure.
yeah, I know we're gonna gather together, and this is it's gonna be different because we've been learned that we can transform our reality and just be
Yeah.
resilient.
Yeah. We have to. The planet needs hemp fiber for building and stopping deforestation, and we need hemp seed oil for
Yeah,
food and protein. And uh, our planet needs this to happen. And it's just so sad that they put this the most productive crop is illegal and lied about, and has this stigma that somehow it's bad. But it gives us a job to do and to make these changes. So we're about out of time. Is there anything you want to say in closing, Polita, for here in not just in Portland, Oregon, but across the nation where we and the world that tunes in occasionally?
Yes, Paul. Yeah, well, I'm really grateful to be part of here. I want to say that I'm so happy to be part of Cannabis international community. It's really important diversity in our movement. So here, as a Mexican Latin American woman, being speaking about my country, speaking about my Latin American region, it is just a show of how this is world is changing. My presence here is just a sample as, that shows that we are making our community in a different way. We are making our own world, which diversity is important. We have no boundaries. We have no different language. We have the cannabis community, love, the love of the plant that gathers in together. If we have, the respect of each other, and we honor our community. Um, I'm really grateful to be part of that community and to be part of here as a Mexican Latin American woman. Be here, occupying this space today is just showing that cannabis movement is just being, really
Yeah,
more diverse than any other movement in the world.
yeah. We welcome our diversity. That's one thing that cannabis people are we're an international family that is willing to welcome other members from all different groups, and I'm happy to be part of it too. So I want to
Thank
thank you for
you
coming
so
on
much.
this show. Is there anything else you want to just like we want to send them to canativa.net? Is that
Yeah,
right?
www.canativa.net, and we are also in, as Canativa in all, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and we believe in education, so support education.
All right. Well, thank you for continuing the education, Polita. I look forward to seeing you down the cannabis road here,
Yeah,
and keep up the great work. I'm very proud to see all that you're doing and help restore hemp.
yeah, totally. Thank you so
All right.
much.
My pleasure, Polita.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
War's over. When's everybody gonna learn? War's over. Until we gonna burn. War's over. Unless you're caught up in a lie. That same old lie. War's over. So let's all party and get high. Thousands upon thousands semi-dead. These words just did not sink in their head. So many give, yet so many more of them take. Until this oven turn off, it just have to bake. War's over. When's everybody gonna learn? War's over. Until then we gonna burn. party and get high.